starting with forming cells today. We're going to cover slides 86 to 104. Membranes. An early step in creating life would be the formation of a membrane to enclose a small volume of water and chemicals in a cell. Remember, all cells have cell membrane around the outside, let some stuff in, and then let some stuff out. Life requires each organism to have an inside and an outside. A cell membrane is needed so that the metabolic reactions occur within a confined space, where energy and materials could be used to build more complicated structures. How could those membranes form before life? Well, cells are the beginning of life, so you have to have a group of cells that work together to form tissue. Tissue forms organs, organs form organ systems, an organ system forms an organism. So if you don't have that cell to begin with, you can't have any living thing. You have to have at least a cell to start with. Fatty acids and phospholipids. Oil and water don't mix. Why not? Why is this important to the evolution of life? Oils, fats, and waxes are all lipids. The common name for lipids is fat. So just kind of like a generic name for it is just they're all fats. Oils, lipids, okay. Fat molecules found in living things have an interesting property. One end is attracted to water and the other repels water. Phospholipids and fatty acids each have a polar end and a nonpolar end. The polar end is attracted to water. The opposite end is nonpolar and is repelled by water. When fatty acids or phospholipids are placed in water, they move so that the polar end in the water and the nonpolar end gather together. The result is to naturally form a membrane without the need for life. So it kind of looks like a bubble, those little oil bubbles inside the water. As you try to mix it up, you have a bunch of little bubbles, and as it settles out, you just have a few bubbles. Liposome, micelle, and bilayer sheet. Those are some of the fats and how they would form in water. The result is the natural formation of primitive cells. Primitive just means early cells. Chemical reactions and processes can occur within the cell walls as the required molecules are kept close together or close to each other. The first cells probably used fatty acids, which form naturally near sources of hot water, such as geysers or hydrothermal vents. Modern cells make their membranes out of phospholipids. Within the enclosed environment of the cell, the processes of chemistry would create even more complex structures belonging to all four classes of organic molecules: proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, and nucleic acids. Cells respond to the environment, reproduce, evolve, interact with other cells, and obtain and use energy to live and to grow. These are characteristics of all living things. Anything that's alive has to do this: reproduce, evolve, interact with other cells, obtain and use energy, and grow. The chemical reactions in these cells would eventually create sugars and then ribonucleic acid, or RNA. RNA is capable of enabling key functions of life: replication, making identical copies of itself, energy storage for chemical reactions, and a catalyst, dramatically speeding up favored chemical reactions. In more advanced biological systems, RNA's functions have been taken over by more specific chemical processes. Replication, DNA is more effective at storage of genetic information. Energy storage, ATP now stores energy in our cells. All of your cells have energy. In case you don't need them right now, you can store it and use it later. And a catalyst, proteins now catalyze reactions. Phospholipids and fatty acids contain both a blank head and a blank tail section. Hydrophobic, hydrophilic, hydrophobic, Okay, those are a lot of hydros. Woo! So which one? Anybody? Say it again. B. Whoops. Hydrophilic and hydrophobic. Attracted to water, repels water. Hydrophobic, you're scared of water. That maybe helps. The creation of membranes from phospholipids provided an enclosed space in which chemical reactions could occur. Which of these did not occur within these primitive cells? RNA synthesis, replication, creation of new elements, production of proteins. Which one? Creation of new elements. It did not do that. It's fine if you have that. That's why you have them. I know you do. That's fine. Metabolism is a very important characteristic of life. What molecule replaced RNA as the energy storage molecule in most living things? DNA, ATP, proteins, sugars. Go ahead. C? No, ATP is the energy. Which molecule is currently responsible for lowering the activation energy of most biochemical reactions? DNA, RNA, ATP, or proteins? What do you think? Anybody?
Proteins.
Proteins is correct. Whoops. And the cell theory. We talked about the cell theory last year. John, eyes up here. All living things are made of one or more cells. Cells are the fundamental unit of structure and function of all living things. Cells arise from other cells. Every living thing is made out of cells. They're the basic unit of all living things, and cells only come from other cells. Let's consider viruses, which are not alive, but have some characteristics of living things. The basic virus particle is genetic material surrounded by a protein coat. It cannot reproduce without invading a host. So a virus needs something to live off of. It can't live by itself without a host. It is a parasite that uses living things. Because it cannot reproduce on its own and does not have metabolism, it is not alive. So technically, a virus is not a living thing. Some viruses contain RNA, and some infectious RNA molecules, viroids, can invade cells. These non-living machines that get cells to replicate their RNA may be related to the first stages of evolution of life from inanimate molecules. They are like fossils that we can study now to understand what happened billions of years ago. Let's see, what number is this? 104? What did I say? I don't remember. Oh yeah, this is the last one. That's what I thought. A cell can be a small compartment of any type. Robert Hooke coined the name cell when he observed plants under a microscope. The plant cells resembled the cells of a honeycomb, or there was also, they thought it looked like the little, like places where monks stay in monasteries, like little rooms, kind of all stuck in there together. In biology, one of the most basic unit of organisms is a cell, a small compartment with most everything a living organism needs. Okay, we're not going to do the activity, so we're done today.